Hello and welcome to this special episode. I'm joined by James from Manifold Finance, and James is head of BD and Comms. Welcome, James.
Hey, Sam, thanks for having me. It's great to be on here.
Yeah, so this was kind of like a last minute thing that we all put together, but I saw your announcement that Manifold Finance had, I believe it was on Tuesday, right? Where you guys announced the launch of the upcoming MEV based LSD or MEV boosted LSD
Yeah, that's right.
supported through Manifold. Yeah. So what exactly is this LSD and what makes it different from some of its other competitors?
Yeah, the LSD space is certainly heating up here. It seems like there's a new announcement every week or so. But I think what sort of makes mevETH unique, or what we think makes it unique, is sort of two aspects. So on the one hand, we basically built it from the ground up around MEV capture. So Manifold is sort of unique in that we are a company that started out basically building middleware tech for DeFi platforms and for dApps and things around MEV protection and MEV recapture. So basically, protecting DeFi users from sandwich attacks and from front running and things, and then recouping revenue from sort of non-toxic, non-predatory MEV that we can then redirect back to protocols or back to users. So we're sort of these MEV specialists, and we thought that we could use our expertise in MEV to kind of build a liquid staking platform from the ground up around MEV. And so what sort of makes us able to use some really novel and innovative MEV techniques here is that we run the full validation stack, meaning we run block builders and we run our own private relay. It's called Secure RPC. And then now soon we're going to be running our own validators here. And because of that, we're basically given the freedom to sort of explore these novel MEV techniques that aren't available to other operators who aren't operating this full validation stack. So just as one example of that, if our validators are assigned an upcoming slot, we're able to, basically build whatever sort of block we want for that slot, and we're able to, define properties and things that say a market maker requests or some other participant, say a liquidation engine or something like that, and we're able to construct blocks with sort of a level of control that isn't available to a liquid staking platform that isn't running tech throughout the full validation stack like we're doing. And so this sort of unlocks kind of a greenfield of different MEV approaches and different approaches to block building and things and transaction inclusion that we think is going to be sort of extremely exciting and extremely sort of opening a lot of doors for us in terms of what we can pursue and what we can do here to bring revenue to the mevETH token. So that's sort of one of the aspects that makes it unique, is the MEV side. And then the other aspect is basically that this is going to be the first natively multi-chain liquid staking token. So this is going to be a layer 0, what's called an OFT, an omni-chain fungible token, which means that you'll be able to natively transfer it across different chains that layer 0 is active on without any sort of wrapping or anything. So avoiding, the sort of well-known security risks that we're all familiar with at this point that are inherent in using wrap tokens across different chains, that won't be necessary. And so this sort of unlocks really kind of incredible composability with different DeFi platforms across chains. And so we're going to be really aggressively pursuing integrations with a number of DeFi apps, money markets, lending protocols, and things on a variety of different chains. We're going to be targeting Ethereum mainnet and L2s to begin with, Optimism, Arbitrum, Polygon, if you want to call it an L2. And then from there, we'll be expanding to Avalanche and, farther afield to other DeFi ecosystems.
Sure. So coming back to the validator set, it seems like this is a new and novel way to approach the LSD market, where other projects like Rocket Pool and Lido have been pushing towards, say, like decentralization as their core focus. This is getting closer to like the user base, right? Where it's not just the validators, right? You also said that there was a RPC, And I'm sure there's some sort of like front running protection that's in there as well too, that would allow users to use the validation system that Manifold is providing, while benefiting from the MEV boost that you can provide to the validators at the same time.
Yeah, that's right. So on the one hand, users and dApps and things can submit transactions to our private relay secure RPC, and they're benefiting from this front-running protection and other sorts of advantages. And you can do that without participating in the liquid staking protocol or anything like that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so then transactions that are going through secure RPC, when our validators that will be running with the liquid staking protocol, when those are assigned a slot, then those transactions will be passing directly to our validators. And of course, we're not going to be doing any sort of predatory predatory MEV on those transactions, but we will be exploring things like backrunning the transactions. So if a user submits a transaction to secure RPC, let's say that they're swapping ETH for another token, and they create a price imbalance across different pools, we might then insert a transaction after that user's transaction that sort of arbitrages away that price imbalance that was created. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's really similar to what I believe it's called, like mevBlocker, that was announced today. Um,
yeah.
that was yeah. So they're paying, like, I think you get 90% of the back run back, where they'll like 10% goes to the relayer, and then you actually get paid for making that transaction. So there's some really interesting and novel ways that this sort of MEV environment is going to allow for new participants like yourself to join the LSD wars. I guess my question from since you're running all the BD stuff is that it seems like this infrastructure that you build uh, could be like widely used, right? Like it could be used all across Lido or Rocket Pool, or even like FrxETH as well too. What's the reasoning behind launching I guess, single LSD through Manifold versus trying to sell it as an infrastructure product to these other networks or
Well,
these other primitive providers?
yeah, so we do see ourselves as sort of structured in a fundamentally different way from Lido and Rocket Pool. So Lido and Rocket Pool have distributed validator sets. They have multiple node operators, and those node operators are connected to a number of different relays, which get blocks from a number of different builders. We, on the other hand, are using honestly what's a more centralized model. So the way that we're set up is sort of more akin to something like, say, Figment or Coinbase or Kraken's model. And we don't see ourselves as wanting to disrupt the sort of distributed validation ecosystem that's emerging here. We see ourselves as a counterweight to some of the very large centralized staking platforms like the Coinbases and the Krakens and things. And so by offering sort of an alternative liquid staking option to those very large centralized services at this point that, frankly, threaten to grow too big in terms of their validation share on the network, we see ourselves as sort of a force against that centralization tendency. Now, if if we ever get to the point where we're approaching a third of validation share or anything, then we'll certainly reassess. But additionally, everything that we're describing at this point is sort of V1 of our system.
Mm-hmm.
We're planning in the future to sort of add some additional capabilities beyond what we've talked about as kind of the key features, the multi-chain, the MEV capture. In the future, we're hoping to move toward things like restaking, validator receipts, and then also using some novel approaches to distributed validator technology and things. But that's all a bit further down the road here.
Yeah, this is a lot like what Frax has been building out, at least like the core stuff. I think there's some more improvements you guys have made on the MEV side through the way that the system is set up. But I'll be really interested to see how, like, so when the token itself, like, is it going to be a rebasing token? Is it going to be wrapped? Like, how exactly does it work? Where, let's say I just buy some MEV ETH, right? Do I have to do anything with it? Do I have to put it in a vault somewhere? Is there any technical details about that yet?
Yeah, so it's not going to be a rebasing token, and there aren't going to be any wrappers that are necessary. We've sort of had the benefit of being able to watch the MEV space for a while now and see sort of what works and what doesn't work, what users like and what they don't like. And so this will be a non-rebasing token, no wrappers. There are some design choices that we haven't fleshed out yet in terms of whether this will just be, a one-to-one peg with Ethereum, or whether it'll be sort of gradually, roughly linearly increasing in price against Ethereum, like RETH, Rocket Pool's LSD. So there are some design choices like that, but it definitely won't be rebasing, and it won't require wrappers.
It's interesting. Yeah. So I guess it probably is going to be, we talked before, I mentioned that Frax has this thing called like the WETH replacement program. So, one of the things that Frax is doing is that like all these LSDs are trying to focus on different stuff. So Rocket Pool and Lido are focusing on these like big distributed validator sets, focusing on decentralization. Frax is more focused on liquidity. And so what they're working towards is essentially, we have what, 20 million curve and pretty like 6% of convex that we can use to incentivize through curve and convex rewards on a biweekly basis. And so what the WETHR program is going to do is essentially say, hey, pair against our, we have two token system, right? So there's a stable coin, which is FrxETH. That's non-rebasing. It's just 1-to-1 pegged to ETH. And then we also have our vaults as well too, which get all the native rewards. And so this new program that we're rolling out essentially says that, hey, like if you're mevETH or if you're Lido or if you're anything else, like pair against FrxETH in curve, and we'll direct all of the rewards proportional to the total TVL, like, to that pool. And so I think by focusing on liquidity, we don't have to be number one. We don't have to be able to like develop cool infrastructure like you guys on the back end. Maybe we can find third parties to help us do it, but liquidity is going to be the answer at the end of the day. So I hopefully there's some stuff that we can work together on with both mevETH and FrxETH.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely big admirers of a lot of the things that Frax has been doing in terms of smart liquidity provisioning and really, frankly, novel and innovative mechanism design and things. And we see our role in the Ethereum space not as trying to sort of dominate or squeeze out other players or anything like that. And so these sorts of opportunities as they arise, these are exactly what we're after and exactly what we get excited about. So yeah.
Yeah. Have you guys done any testing or analysis to see like in the current environment what the additional yield from the MEV stuff would be?
Yeah, we've certainly done some modeling on that. I'm sort of hesitant to talk about any of our alternate or any of our internal revenue simulations at this point, just because we don't want to.
I guess the question is like, is it just throwing numbers out there? Like, would it be less than 5% or more than 5% in addition? Do you
So
think?
yeah, we're
Or I
expect
guess it's on the size, right? Yeah.
yeah we're expecting that the additional revenue that's brought in through MEV is certainly not going to be negligible.
Hmm.
I think maybe it's best to leave it at that at this point, but certainly as we get closer to launch, and then once the system is actually live and we can watch it in real time, I think those numbers will become clear.
Yeah, and also as uh, more people swap the regular ETH over into different types of LSD ETH, and we get back at, especially if we go back to that market where the gas is like in the 50s to hundreds on a daily basis.
Sure.
I
Yeah,
think it's going to
and
become very, yeah.
and just in volatile markets, a lot of sort of more rich MEV opportunities emerge. And then another point, I said we'll sort of see the MEV advantage when the system goes live, but that's actually not totally true because our plan is to continue, building in and researching and discovering sort of new MEV approaches that we can use with our full validation stack that we have. So we'll be essentially adding to this over time and hopefully identifying new revenue streams, as the months go on.
That sounds really cool. I'm very excited to see how mevETH launches. This will be the first of its kind to be so focused on MEV as a additional yield source, and I think it could be pretty beneficial for the whole space. So I think we'll wrap up there, James. I really appreciate you coming on to this quick session, but we'll have to have you back on once you guys get closer to launch and we can get more deep into the weeds with the technical docs of mevETH.
Yeah, that sounds great, Sam. Thanks so much, and it's been a pleasure.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Bye.